Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're zoning in on Faridabad. It's really a fascinating place, giving us a unique window into India's shifting political scene. It's this complex mix, an industrial hub, part of the NCR, but with its own deep history and some really pressing modern dynamics. Our mission today is basically to unpack what's going on there, the voting patterns, the governance, hurdles, and the socio-political stuff defining the city.
Absolutely. And Faridabad's story is quite something. You go from its founding, really, as a resettlement town for refugees after partition, championed by Kamala Devi Chattopadhyay, to this huge, sprawling urban area today. It's nearly 80% urban. But then you see statistics like the sex ratio, 873 females per 1,000 males, which is, well, quite low. And these aren't just numbers on a page, right? They point to real social issues that inevitably bubble up into political concerns.
Okay, so let's talk politics then. The electoral landscape seems dominated really by the BJP, the Bharatiya Janata Party. You've got Krishan Pal holding the Lok Sabha seats since 2014, and then 5 out of 6 assembly seats going their way in 2024. That's pretty consistent.
It is consistent. And it definitely shows a strong connection, particularly, it seems, the urban parts of Faridabad. But it's not the whole picture. There's a real tension there. You have these big, ambitious urban development plans, announced the Smart Cities mission, for example. Big promises. Yet, you also hear reports, quite concerning ones, about infrastructure in shambles, even after crores, tens of millions of rupees, have supposedly been spent.
Right, so a gap between the announcement and the reality.
Exactly, and that gap raises serious questions about, well, accountability, but delivering on promises. It's a potential vulnerability, politically speaking.
And speaking of impacting lives, let's shift to something really difficult. Forced evictions. We know about the looming eviction of around 8,000 homes in Nehru Colony, slated for next July. And that's after the huge Koregaon eviction in 2021, 100,000 people. That even got attention from UN human rights experts.
It did. And these situations, they really throw a harsh light on this fundamental conflict, don't they? The drive for urban development clashing, often quite brutally, with basic human rights. If there aren't humane rehabilitation plans in place, well, that's a huge political risk. And it's worth remembering, Faridabad has a history of this kind of thing, of people pushing back. Think back to 1952, the labor union formed by refugees fighting unemployment. There's a legacy of resistance when promises aren't met.
That historical context is important. Now, what about the broader political shifts in Haryana? We're hearing about dynastic politics maybe losing some ground. Look at the JJP, the Janayak Janta Party reports say they were completely wiped out in 2024. What happened there?
Yeah, that was quite dramatic. A lot of it seems to boil down to anti-incumbency sentiment, and specifically public anger over their alliance during the whole farm laws situation. It really cost them. It shows how national issues like, say, Article 370, which the BJP used effectively in 2019, intersect with very potent state-level concerns. In 2024, even with, palpable public anger over the farmers' protests, the wrestlers' protests, the BJP still formed the government.
So how did they manage that, despite the anger?
Well, it seems to be a combination of factors. Their ability to consolidate the non-Jat vote, especially in South Haryana, was key. And frankly, the opposition, the INC, faced its own internal division. So electoral success isn't just about public mood, right? It's also party machinery, leadership, strategy. It's complex.
Okay, one more angle before we wrap up the environment. That seems to be emerging as a political issue, too. Faridabad's got serious water problems, waterlogging in the city, groundwater levels dropping. These are daily life issues.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And these kinds of everyday impacts, the water issues, maybe pollution, they're becoming political flashpoints. Solving them requires real political will, serious investment.
So Faridabad really feels like a microcosm, doesn't it? You see rapid city growth, economic policies, social justice fights, environmental stress, all converging in one place, shaping its politics.
It really does. It encapsulates so much of contemporary India. And perhaps the thought to leave you with is this. How can governments, anywhere really, bridge that often huge gap between the grand plans, the big policy statements, and the actual lived reality for people, especially in fast-growing cities like Faridabad, where you're constantly juggling development, human rights, and basic sustainability? What does that balancing act look like in the future?